Tucker Carlson. From CNN to Fox News to his own independent platform, he's built a reputation as someone who refuses to accept rehearsed talking points, who pushes back when answers don't add up, and who isn't intimidated by titles, wealth, or fame. He's been canceled, boycotted, and attacked from every direction, and he's still behind that desk, still asking what everyone's thinking. So when Prince Harry agreed to appear on the Tucker Carlson show, reportedly to reach across the aisle and demonstrate his willingness to engage with diverse viewpoints, he made a critical miscalculation. He saw a conservative commentator and assumed that meant predictable opposition he could easily dismiss. He saw Tucker's folksy demeanor and mistook it for lack of preparation. He saw an opportunity to look open-minded and walked straight into a conversation he wasn't equipped to handle. Within 30 minutes, the Duke of Sussex would discover what countless politicians and public figures had learned before him. Tucker Carlson doesn't care about your title, your trauma, or your talking points. He cares about whether your story makes sense. And when it doesn't, he says so, with a smile that makes the devastation even worse. Before we dive into this explosive confrontation, make sure you hit subscribe and smash that like button. Now, let's get into what really happened in that studio. The Tucker Carlson show studio was deliberately simple. A wooden table, 2 chairs, minimal production value that focused attention entirely on the conversation. No elaborate sets, no live audience, just 2 men talking across a table with cameras capturing every expression. Tucker sat in his usual position, reviewing notes with that characteristic expression of bemused skepticism that had become his trademark. His team had warned him that Harry's people had sent extensive restrictions, topics to avoid, questions deemed inappropriate, subjects that might trigger the prince. Tucker had read none of it. He never did. The door opened, and Prince Harry entered with an entourage that seemed excessive for a podcast. Handlers, a publicist, someone who appeared to be a narrative consultant. Tucker watched them fuss over Harry's positioning, his water glass, the angle of the lighting. "We good?" Tucker asked finally as the handlers reluctantly retreated. Harry settled into his chair, crossing his legs with deliberate casualness. "We're good." "Great. So before we start, this is pretty straightforward. We talk. I ask questions. You answer. Goes wherever it goes. Sound okay?" Harry's expression carried a subtle condescension. "Within reason," Tucker repeated, his smile widening slightly. "What does that mean?" "It means there are some topics I'd prefer to avoid. Personal family matters, speculation about my marriage, things that aren't relevant to why I'm here." Tucker nodded slowly. "And why are you here?" "To have a genuine conversation. To show I can engage with different perspectives." Different perspectives meaning conservative perspectives? Meaning any perspective outside my usual bubble. Tucker's smile became something closer to a grin. "That's very open-minded of you. Let's see how long it lasts." The cameras began rolling. Tucker leaned back, his posture relaxed but his attention focused. "So, Harry, can I call you Harry, or do you prefer Your Royal Highness?" Harry's jaw tightened slightly. "Harry's fine. I'm not a working royal anymore." Right, you quit, left the family business. How's that going?" "It's going wonderfully. I'm thriving." Thriving. That word comes up a lot with you. It's almost like a brand. It's not a brand. It's the truth. But help me understand something. You left the royal family because, and I'm using your words here, it was suffocating, restrictive, traumatic, and now you're thriving. But you also seem very angry. You've written a book about how terrible it was. You've done documentaries. You're here presumably to talk about it more. That doesn't seem like moving on behavior. That seems like still really upset behavior. Harry's expression hardened. Processing trauma publicly helps others who've been through similar things. Or does it keep the wound open? I'm genuinely asking, at what point does sharing become dwelling? I don't dwell. You've been talking about how terrible your family is for 4 years straight. The book, the interviews, the documentary. That's not closure. That's a cottage industry. Harry's voice sharpened. I'm controlling my own narrative by constantly revisiting the same grievances. That's not control. That's obsession with a new marketing strategy. The tension was building already. Tucker remained relaxed, almost amused, while Harry's body language became increasingly defensive. "Let's talk about something current," Tucker said. "The Netflix situation. Some of your projects got canceled recently. What happened?" Harry's expression flickered. "Projects evolve. That's entertainment. Evolve is a nice word for canceled. The animated series was canceled. Documentary concepts were dropped. That's not evolution. That's rejection. You don't understand how the industry works. I've been in media for 30 years. I understand exactly how it works. When projects get canceled, it means someone decided they weren't worth making. What made yours not worth making? That's a mischaracterization. It's a question. You signed a reportedly $100 million deal. The output has been limited. People are curious what happened to the rest of that money." Harry leaned forward aggressively. "I don't discuss financial matters publicly. You discussed your family's finances extensively in your book. You revealed how much Charles gives you, complained about being cut off. Why are Netflix finances off limits when family finances weren't?" Harry had no immediate answer. Tucker waited, his expression patient. "That's different." "Is it? Both involve money. Both involve agreements and expectations. You were happy to discuss financial arrangements when it made your family look bad. You're not willing to discuss them when they might make you look bad. That's not principle. That's convenience." Tucker shifted topics, his approach methodical. "Let's talk about the Met Gala. Big fashion event, very Hollywood. You and Meghan weren't invited this year. What happened?" Harry's composure cracked slightly. "We weren't on the list. That's unusual, isn't it? You're a duke. Meghan's a duchess. You're both very fashionable, apparently. Not being invited seems like a statement. Guest lists change. It's not significant. It seems significant. The Met Gala invites pretty much every major celebrity. Anna Wintour personally curates the list. Being excluded suggests she specifically chose not to include you. Any idea why?" "I don't speculate about Anna Wintour's decisions." Tucker smiled. "You speculate extensively about your family's decisions. Why is Anna Wintour sacred but King Charles isn't?" "That's completely different." "How?" "Both are powerful people making decisions about whether to include you in things. You've built your entire public narrative around analyzing and criticizing one set of exclusions. Why not this one?" Harry's face reddened. "Because one involves systemic racism and institutional cruelty. The other is a party invitation. But both suggest that maybe you're not as embraced as you thought you'd be. The Met Gala, the Netflix cancellations, the Spotify situation. There's a pattern of doors closing. At what point do you acknowledge that maybe the problem isn't everyone else?" "There is no pattern. There's observable evidence. I'm just asking you to explain it." Tucker took a sip of water, his expression thoughtful. "Let's talk about Meghan. How's she doing?" The shift in Harry's demeanor was immediate. Walls going up, expression closing off. "I'd prefer not to discuss my wife." Tucker's eyebrows rose. "Why not? She's your partner in everything. The foundation, the media company, the whole Sussex brand. How can we discuss your life without discussing her? By focusing on me. That's what I'm here for. But you're not really a solo act, are you? Everything you've done since leaving the UK has been joint. The Netflix deal, the Spotify podcast, the Oprah interview, all of it was Harry and Meghan. When did you become separate?" "We're not separate. We're partners. But I can speak for myself." "Can you?" "Because most of your public statements involve her. Most of your grievances involve how she was treated. She's central to your narrative. Making her off limits removes most of what you've actually talked about." Harry's jaw flexed. "There are rumors I'd like to address, since you're bringing her up." "Which rumors?" "The divorce rumors. The separation speculation. They're completely false. We're stronger than ever." Tucker nodded slowly. "Interesting. I asked how she was doing. You heard divorce. Why did your mind go there?" Harry stiffened. "Because that's what the tabloids are obsessing over." "I'm not a tabloid. I asked a simple question. You immediately defended against divorce accusations I never made. That's a strong association. It's a protective response. It's a revealing response. When someone asks about your wife and you jump straight to, "We're not getting divorced," it suggests divorce is on your mind more than you're admitting. It's not on my mind. Then why was it your first thought? I've done thousands of interviews. People don't usually defend against accusations that aren't being made unless those accusations hit close to home. Harry slammed his hand on the table. You're twisting everything. I'm observing your reactions. Your reactions are telling me more than your words. That's not my fault. It's just what's happening. Tucker's expression remained calm, almost sympathetic, which somehow made his questions more devastating. Harry, let me ask you something. What do you actually want? You left the royal family. You moved to California. You've got money, freedom, a family. By most measures, you won. So why are you still so angry? Harry's voice rose. I'm not angry. You've been angry since you walked in. Before I asked a single difficult question, you were already defensive. The body language, the tone, the chip on your shoulder the size of Buckingham Palace. That's anger, Harry. What's it about? It's about being constantly misrepresented. By who? Right now in this room, I've asked straightforward questions about your life and your choices. You've treated each one like an attack. If simple questions feel like misrepresentation, maybe the problem isn't the questions. Your questions have an agenda. My agenda is understanding. I'm curious about your life, your choices, your perspective. That's the whole show. But you've been hostile since you sat down, and I haven't figured out why. Harry stood up slightly, then sat back down. Maybe because I know what you're going to say about me after I leave. You don't know anything about what I'm going to say. You've assumed. You've walked in here with a story already written about how this would go, and now you're living that story instead of having an actual conversation. That's not true. It's demonstrably true. You've been defensive about things I haven't attacked. You've protected against accusations I haven't made. You've treated every question as hostile, when most of them have been genuinely curious. That's a man living inside his own narrative, not responding to what's actually happening. Harry grabbed his water glass, took a long drink, then set it down with more force than necessary. This isn't going how I expected. Tucker smiled. How did you expect it to go? I expected tough questions. I was prepared for that. These aren't tough questions, Harry. How are you? How's your wife? What happened with Netflix? These are softballs. The toughest thing I've done is notice your reactions. If that's too much, you weren't prepared for anything. You're deliberately provoking me. I'm deliberately observing you. There's a difference. And what I observe is someone who came here to demonstrate openness, but can't actually be open. Someone who wanted to look brave by facing a hostile interviewer, but can't handle basic curiosity. You are hostile. Am I? I've been friendly. I've smiled. I've given you every opportunity to share your perspective. You've turned each opportunity into a confrontation. The hostility is coming from you, Harry. I'm just not pretending otherwise. Harry's face contorted with barely suppressed rage. You don't understand what I've been through. I understand what you've told me. And what you've told me, through your book, your documentary, your interviews, and now your behavior here, is that you're deeply angry about things that happened years ago, and you're taking that anger out on anyone who doesn't treat you exactly how you want to be treated. That's not fair. It's completely fair. You came on my show. You wanted to engage with different perspectives. Here's a different perspective. You're a wealthy man with every advantage imaginable, who spends most of his time complaining about his family. That's not inspiring. That's not brave. That's someone who can't move on from grievances that most people would consider luxury problems. Harry stood up fully, his composure finally breaking. I don't have to sit here and be lectured. Tucker didn't stand. He just looked up at Harry with an expression of mild curiosity. You don't have to. You can leave any time. But leaving proves my point. What point? That you can't handle disagreement. That your openness only extends to people who accept your narrative without question. That the moment someone pushes back, you run. I'm not running. You're standing up, preparing to walk out because I asked you questions you didn't like. What would you call that? I'd call it refusing to be disrespected. Where was the disrespect? Point to it. What specific thing did I say that was disrespectful? Harry hesitated. The challenge hung in the air. Your whole approach. My approach has been curious and direct. I've asked questions based on things you've said publicly. I've observed your reactions and commented on them. If that's disrespect, then any form of scrutiny is disrespect. And if that's your position, you should probably stop doing interviews. Harry pointed at Tucker, his hand shaking slightly. You think you're so clever. I think I'm asking reasonable questions that you can't answer. That's not cleverness. That's just paying attention. You're going to regret this. People have been telling me that for 30 years, still waiting for the regret to kick in. But thank you for confirming exactly what I suspected about you. What's that supposed to mean? It means you threaten people when you can't control them. That's a pattern. You threatened your family when they didn't comply. You implied consequences for media that didn't cover you properly. And now you're threatening me because I asked questions you didn't like. It's all the same move. Power through intimidation when persuasion fails. Harry grabbed his jacket from the back of his chair. This interview is over. It was over before it started. You came here with walls already built, ready to be offended by whatever happened. I just didn't cooperate with your expectations. My expectations were for basic fairness. You received it. Every question was fair. You just didn't like them. That's different. Harry moved toward the exit, then turned back for one final confrontation. You know what your problem is, Tucker? You think being contrarian makes you right. You think disagreeing with popular opinion makes you smart. But all you really are is someone who profits from conflict. Tucker nodded thoughtfully. Maybe. But here's the difference between us. I'm honest about what I do. You profit from your grievances while pretending you're healing. You seek attention while claiming you want privacy. You threaten people while claiming victimhood. I'm just a guy asking questions. You're the one performing multiple contradictions at once. I'm not performing anything. You've been performing since you walked in. The aggrieved prince act. The I'm just here for honest dialogue opening. The carefully calibrated outrage when things didn't go your way. It's a show, Harry. And it's not a very good one because I've seen it before. Every politician, every celebrity, everyone who wants sympathy without scrutiny does exactly what you've done today. Harry stared at Tucker for a long moment. Something flickered behind his eyes. Maybe recognition. Maybe just more anger. Goodbye, Tucker. Goodbye, Harry. Thanks for proving every point I would have made about you. Harry turned and walked out. The door closed behind him with a decisive click. Tucker sat alone at the table for a moment, then turned to face the camera. Well, that was interesting. He shrugged. I don't usually have guests walk out. It happens, but not often. Usually people at least try to finish the conversation. He leaned back in his chair. Here's what I noticed. He came in defensive. Before I asked anything remotely challenging, he was already braced for attack. That's a man who's been told he's under siege and believes it, regardless of what's actually happening. I asked how he was doing, basic stuff. And he was already treating me like an enemy. Tucker smiled slightly. The thing about interviews is they reveal character. Not through the answers, those are usually rehearsed. Through the reactions, and his reactions told me everything. When I asked about Netflix, he got defensive instead of just explaining. When I asked about his wife, he jumped straight to divorce denials I hadn't asked for. When I noted patterns he didn't like, he threatened me. He looked directly into the camera. That's not a man at peace. That's not someone who's thriving. That's someone still fighting battles that ended years ago, and who's turned the fighting itself into an identity. I feel sorry for him, honestly. He has every advantage in the world, and can't enjoy any of them, because he's too busy being angry about the past. Tucker shrugged again. He's welcome back any time. Maybe once he's actually processed whatever he's going through instead of just performing it. But I doubt that'll happen. Some people need their grievances too much to let them go. The interview lasted 27 minutes before Harry walked out. Its impact would last considerably longer. Tucker Carlson continued doing what he'd always done, asking the questions that powerful people didn't want to answer, noticing the contradictions that everyone else was too polite to mention. Prince Harry returned to Montecito, to his foundation work, to his ongoing media strategy. But the footage followed him. Another interview that went wrong. Another host who didn't understand. Another exit that confirmed exactly what critics had been saying. Some conversations reveal connection. Others reveal character. And some characters, when examined closely, turn out to be exactly what the critics suspected. Not victims, but performers. Not seekers of peace, but collectors of grievance, Tucker had asked. Harry had revealed. And the cameras had captured everything. What do you think? Was Tucker too direct, or did Harry deserve every question? Who would you want to see on Tucker's show next? Drop your thoughts in the comments below. If you enjoyed this story, don't forget to like this video to help it reach more people. Subscribe to our channel for more explosive celebrity moments.